What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Jericho Report Weekly News Briefing. It is Monday, the 6th of July, 2020. Haven't done one of these in a few weeks. Well, we had all of the rioting and the protesting and the burning down of everything, and I spent so much time on Twitch live streaming that once I got done with that every night, I really couldn't focus to put any of this together. But I'm going to try to get back to doing these normally every week now. Let's get into the news. I got a lot of stuff saved. Some of this is older, some of it's newer. I got a mix of stuff. Let's start off with the COVID. WHO says the worst is yet to come in relation to COVID-19. Oh, by the way, the first link below will take you over to the Patreon post. That's where you can find all of this stuff. CDC says U.S. has way too much virus to control pandemic as cases surge across the country, and that was on June 30th. Now, on the 6th, it's much, much worse. We're all going to die. Trump won't follow New Jersey quarantine order because he says he's not a civilian, White House says. Yes. Only the peasants follow the rules. Speaking of Trump, he recently did a thing on Fox Business News. I'll put a link to this. You can watch it if you want. I think we're going to be very good with the coronavirus. I think that at some point that it's just going to sort of disappear, I hope. I'll put a link to it. Other news going on. BLM protests have not led to a spike in coronavirus, says Stouty. Well, of course not, because 1,000 health professionals plus signed letters saying don't shut down protests using coronavirus concerns as an excuse. You cannot. Protesting is not an approved activity if you're protesting the lockdown. Not approved. But if you're protesting the police, by all means, get in the streets. I'll put a link to that. Washington Examiner says Oregon County imposes face mask requirement targeting only white people. Minorities exempt over racism fears. That makes sense. CNN Politics asked repeatedly to say Black Lives Matter. Mike Pence says all lives matter. Right on, Mike Pence. Screw their agenda. Re-education camp for saying all lives matter? Question mark. I don't know. I'll put a link to this. What else we got here? King 5 says 25 arrested during overnight protests after Seattle dismantled the CHOP zone. The CHOP has been dismantled in Seattle. I thought it was do or die CHOP. What the hell? We didn't know they were coming at 5 in the morning. Put a link to that. Poll finds over half think Joe Biden likely in early stages of dementia. That from June 19th. I bring that up because just recently, does Joe Biden call himself Joe Biden's husband? Yes, he does. You can scroll down and watch the video. I'm Joe Biden, Joe Biden's husband. Yes, crazy Joe all the time. It's going to be such entertainment watching this election. Anyway, how major U.S. stock indexes fared on Thursday because Friday the market was closed because of the 4th of July weekend. Over to financial news, by the way. I'm sorry, I'm a little rusty. How has the financials been doing? I didn't even pay attention. Dow Jones gained 92 points on Thursday. For the week, let's just see here. The Dow Jones added 811 points. The S&P gained 120.96. I'll put a link to the market recap data if you want it. Record jobs gain 4.8 million in June, smashes expectation. Unemployment falls to 11.1%. I wonder how that can be, because just earlier, a couple days earlier, CNBC put out an article that said nearly half of U.S. population is without a job, showing how far the labor recovery has to go. I don't understand these numbers. It's all cooked up anyway, is it not? Other news going on, thousands of hotels facing foreclosure as pandemic persists. Put a link to this. We got BBC to lay off 450 people after pledging 124 million for diverse content to appease Black Lives Matter. I'm sorry, BBC. I don't feel sorry for you at all. Seattle City Council expected to pass largest tax on business in Seattle's history. Yes. Who do you think is going to pay for all of this coronavirus and all this stuff? Well, the people are going to be taxed to death. Guarantee it. That's just one story to kick it all off. Man barely survives COVID-19 only to be hit with $1.1 million hospital bill. Put a link to that. Zero Hedge. And I got one more. 83 tons of fake gold bars. Gold market rocked by massive China counterfeiting scandal. Uh-oh. Dun, 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 dun. Over to New World Order and Police State News. Masks are now mandatory in public spaces in Pennsylvania. Make no mistake, it's happening all across the country. Do not walk out of your house without a mask on or you will be shot to death. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, they're talking about fining people a lot of money for not wearing a mask. Screw your tyranny. California Governor Newsom bans singing in churches. Oh my God! All of these gospels you're uttering out of your mouth is causing coronavirus to spread. New rule requires University of Tennessee students to get flu vaccine. Remember, I told you about this in my last video. COVID-19 vaccine, if it becomes available, it will be forced. Be advised. Facebook bans all talk about vaccines, but openly embraces art depicting Antifa terrorists slicing open neck of cop. Put a link to this from Natural News. You can't talk about vaccines, but anything else, go ahead. Beijing uses phone data to round up 350,000 people for coronavirus testing and installs facial recognition checkpoints. Facial recognition checkpoints Go watch the movie. What was the movie with Tom Cruise? The pre-crime movie, Minority Report. Go watch it. Soon to be in America, no doubt. They're already installing secret stuff on your phone to track you. Yes, they are. Google it. Other stuff going on. You want to see what's coming next? Here, let's watch this together. It's a real short video. Bill and Melinda Gates, right?
In fact, the testing could have been ramped up.
Listen to Bill Gates tell you what's going to happen next.
Very quickly in a few countries that have almost avoided the epidemic entirely, like Taiwan, New Zealand, Australia. They took their experience and actually prepared, and so they moved a lot faster. So we,
listen to this.
Have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is will get attention this time.
You see that smirk on his face? The next one will get attention this time. Call me a conspiracy theorist all you want. I'll put a link to the video. Silenced. We live in a time when our opinions qualify as crime. Zero Hedge. You got a censorship article here. I believe Google has pulled all their advertising off Zero Hedge. They expelled them from the program. DOJ proposes new legislation that would hold Facebook, Google, and Twitter liable for harmful content posed by its users. Be advised, this will lead to internet control, more and more censorship. Supreme Court rejects several gun rights cases for next term. Be advised, ABC News. Put a link to that. Here in St. Louis, circuit attorney threatens to take action against couple who protected their home against protest mob on a private street. They tore down the gate and was going for these people's homes, and they pulled out a gun and said, no, you're not. The St. Louis City circuit attorney has lost her mind. I'll put a link to the story. Other news going on. 9/11 documentary on WTC buildings, spot on. 7. I am all for 9/11 truth. However, I believe that most of this country wouldn't care, even if the truth was right in their faces. It always has been. But I did have a little hope. Yesterday, on the 4th, I was really upset and depressed because I'm like, what are people celebrating? Because all of your freedoms are being taken away and you're being forced to. They canceled fireworks. Did you see what happened out in California? This gave me a little hope. Here you go. Check this out. Here's a video.
10 minutes, 15 minutes or so.
People said, screw your crap. We're going to have the 4th of July anyway. Illegal fireworks all over the city. Same thing happened in St. Louis. There was fireworks everywhere, lighting up the sky. Look at all of this mass non-compliance. Fireworks are illegal in St. Louis City. Didn't stop them. Didn't stop them out in California either. I thought that was very cool. I was just so depressed on the 4th, and I know I'm not the only one who was sitting here pissed off. But I saw that video, and it made me feel better. A little hope. People saying, hell no, we're not going to take it anymore. Anyway, where are we now? World War III news. I'm sorry I'm all over the place. Indian Prime Minister orders to stock up on war reserves, deployment of assets after a violent face-off with China. Of course, these are maybe a week or two old. I'll put a link to this. But I put that because this came out the next day. World War III, Pakistan Army launched unprovoked attack on India. Intense gunfire at the border. That from Express. We got Al-Qaeda leader taken out by secret U.S. missile fired with knives dubbed the Ninja Bomb. Cool. I'll link to that. Russia reportedly paid Taliban-linked militants bounty money to kill American troops. This whole story's in the news. Trump's claiming he never heard about it. I'll put a link to that. Pilot found dead after U.S. fighter jet crashes into the North Sea off Yorkshire coast. Not sure what's up with that. That was June 15. We got the massive explosions after Israeli jets strike army bases in Syria. Put a link to that, June 23rd from RT. And North Korea is back in the news. North Korea threatens sensational event to end America. That came out on June 22nd, Blackjack date. Interesting date for that article to come out. And then a day before we had this, China's big surprise, years in the making, EMP attack, Operation Blackjack, Jericho. Oh, it's all in the cards. See my last video. Over to, where are we now? Earth changes in 2012 news. Now, I got it set up for the past 2 weeks, 6 points plus. We've only had one 6-point plus in the past 2 weeks. 25 June, I find that hard to believe. I'll put a link to this data if you want to play around with this map. I know we had the big one with 7.5 earthquake. Southern Mexico, that was June 23rd. There's been a couple more 7-pointers that are out there if you want to Google them. Another round of Saharan dust reaches U.S. after first huge plume dissipates. All this dust coming over here, making it circle around the world. Speaking of dust, act of necessary force. Greta Thunberg says BLM protests and coronavirus give blueprint for climate change fight. Well, of course it does, as long as you have your script, Greta. The Arctic is on fire. Siberian heat wave alarms scientists. What? That from Fox News. More than 350 elephants dropped dead in mysterious mass die-off clustered around the water holes over there in the Delta. Put a link to the, oh man, damn. You hate to see dead elephants. That's depressing. End of the world 2020. Did you know the world ended in the past couple weeks? Will the end of the world happen on June 21? No, maybe it did. Maybe we're just stuck in an infinite loop of craziness. And one more. Bright fireball over Tokyo explodes with a force of 165 tons of TNT. Kaboom! What a strange and bizarre news. As I read these stories, ask yourself if you would welcome the apocalypse. Viral video shows calm man with knife sticking out of his head in Harlem. Check that out. Man with knife stuck in his head walking around like, what's up? Maybe it was this lady. Harvard graduate threatens to stab anyone who says all lives matter. I heard she lost her job. She was on Instagram or whatever it was crying, but she never really worked there or something. I don't know. I'll put a link to that. Rice Krispies is racist. What? Disgruntled ex-Labor MP targets Kellogg's over white boys snap, crackle, and pop. Everything is racist nowadays. I got a couple more stories like this. Black Lives Matter activist lost a testicle after being shot in the groin with a rubber bullet. Fired by LAPD during protests. Well, I mean, it's hazard, you know, these are chances that you take. Mrs. Butterworth's syrup announces it will rebrand after Uncle Ben's Rice and Aunt Jemima both reveal plans to scrap their names and bid to end racial bias. Oh, Mrs. Butterworth, you racist bitch. I'll put a link to that. 1,000-sign petition to rename Columbus, Ohio to Flavortown? Really? I'm just at a loss for words with this stuff. Chinese man has his colon torn apart by 16-inch eel after sticking it into his rear. Don't even click on that link. Sect addict sues Amazon-owned video platform Twitch for $25 million because of the girls that are hanging out. Apparently he injured himself by watching Twitch. Hey, you're suing over the boobs? Come on now, what's the matter with you? Montana man charged with tearing down 10 Commandments statue with pickup truck. You godless heathens. And Alabama students attend COVID-19 parties gamble on who gets sick first. Well, maybe they're stupid, but maybe they have balls. I don't know. I'll put a link to that. If you have not checked out my favorite videos, please head over there for more news, all kinds of stuff. Did you see the two ladies that got hit on the highway out in Seattle over the weekend? Oh, my God. Well, don't walk into highway. What's the matter with you? Angry Karen and Kevin paint over BLM mural. I mean, there's all kinds of fresh madness and stuff over here in my favorites. Definitely check. Look at this. More YouTube censorship going on. Definitely check out my favorites, what little there is over there. And shout-outs this week. Shout-out to this girl, whoever she is. You want to check out this video on Twitter talking about the hypocrisy of Black Lives Matter and all this stuff that's going on in the world. I think she talks about maybe some of the corona stuff, too. Hypocrisy, you know, this, that, the other thing. Definitely check her video out. Shout out to the Florida sheriff to deputize gun owners if cops can't handle protesters. Scroll down and check out what the sheriff has to do. That's my question. Where are the sheriffs in this nation? You sheriffs out there in every state and county and city across this nation, you could put an end to a lot of shit going on right now if you would just step up. I'll put a link to that. And shout out to David Dorn. You know what really pisses me off? Everybody's going to remember the names of the people that the police killed, but nobody's going to remember the name David Dorn. This man right here spent nearly all his life in service to my city, the city of St. Louis. He spent like 30 or 40 years with the city police department. Then he went out to the county and spent some time with them. He was murdered during all this nonsense that went on about a month ago with this looting and crap. He was killed by some thug who wanted to steal a TV from a pawn shop. And it bothers me so much that people will remember the name Floyd, but they won't remember the name Dorn. Just a handful of people. Take a moment and pull this article up. Take a moment and research this man, because he should be remembered. This man spent his whole life in service to others, and he was killed by some thug who wanted a free TV from a pawn shop. Black Lives Matter, huh? Well, David Dorn, your life mattered to me. And I thank you. And I got one more. David Eugene Dees. For those of you who know the name David Dees, he's been around this community ever since the beginning of everything. Passed away on May 31, 2020. I wanted to say a word in remembrance because I used a lot of his work. I'll put a link to a tribute by Jeff Rentz for David Dees. If you scroll down here, you no doubt know some of this art. You've seen it around. I used to use a lot of this art back in the days. I remember sending David Dees an email years ago. We're talking 2009, 2010, saying, hey, do you mind if I use some of your work for backdrops in my videos? Because he does all this anti-New World Order just, Dees, you touched a lot of lives with your work, and you will be missed. That's all I got before I start getting all teary-eyed, you guys. I'm going to try to get back to doing these reports regularly. I'm sorry I've been gone for a month or so, but I've been over on Twitch. Thank you for everybody who came over to Twitch to watch the live streams with me and all the stuff going on. I anticipate as we get closer to the election that we'll probably be hanging out on Twitch a lot more. Anyway, if you like this report, please give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. I think it sucked. It's the worst of YouTube. You never want to see again. Please rate, though. It helps it move around. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, BitChute. Definitely all my links are always at the bottom. You can also support me on Patreon or directly with PayPal because YouTube has fully demonetized this channel. So we got to take care of each other now. Tell me what you think of current events. Where are we headed going into this new week after the 4th of July weekend? What's going to go on with the COVID? What's going to go on with the Black Lives Matter? I don't know, man. But definitely check out my last video if you haven't seen it for what I think's coming. You guys take care. Stay safe. Thanks for hanging out with me for a few minutes. I will see you on the next one.